Hello and welcome back to anyone and everyone watching. After an extremely busy week in college, I'm finally back. The good news is that this next week I should be returning back to a regular 1 or 2 video per week upload schedule, and then the week after that is my spring break, so I'll be aiming for even more uploads then. But anyway, today I'll be going over the 15 NASCAR drivers who I think will show the most improvement this season as compared to last season. Basically, the only criteria for this list is that every driver must be full-time, or at least intended to be full-time as of the recording of this video, in either the Truck, Xfinity, or Cup Series, and they also must not be a first-year NASCAR driver, because in that case, they have nothing to improve off of. So, for example, that would disqualify Daniel Dye, whose NASCAR debut was in the Truck Series opener at Daytona this year, but that would not disqualify his teammate Rajah Caruth, as despite it also being his rookie truck year, he made select Truck and Xfinity starts last year. I also intentionally included equal representation from each of the 3 national NASCAR series, so there will be 5 drivers from the trucks, 5 drivers from Xfinity, and 5 from Cup in this video. But without any further ado, let's get right into the top 15 NASCAR drivers who I think will improve the most in 2023. Coming up first in the 15th spot is the number 24 Hendrick Motorsports driver of William Byron. At the start of last season, it looks like William was finally on his way to a breakout season, as after going winless in his first 2 Cup years and scoring 1 win apiece in 2020 and 2021, he went on to get 2 wins in just the first 8 races last year. In fact, with a record-tying amount of unique winners in 2022, Byron remained the only driver to have won multiple races until the Coke 600, the 14th race of the season, when Denny Hamlin recorded his 2nd win. But after that hot start, it was all downhill for Byron for the rest of the regular season, as in the next 18 races following his win at Martinsville, he would only finish inside the top 10 once. Regardless of whether the 24 team was holding back until the playoffs or what, that was an absolutely unacceptable streak for Byron. Then right away in the playoffs, he came alive again, totaling 1 top 5 and 6 top 10s in those 10 races, never finishing worse than 16th. Taking full advantage of the playoff format, Byron ended the year with a personal best of 6th in the standings, even though he had the fewest top 10 since his rookie year. In the first 2 races this year, luck was not on his side as he crashed out of the Daytona 500 and struggled through mechanical problems at Auto Club and brought to a 25th place finish. I would say his luck will turn around pretty quickly, and while I don't think he'll be a championship threat, I do think he'll be able to put together a career-best season with anywhere from 2 to 4 wins, another round of 8 appearances in the playoffs, and certainly much more consistency through the regular season. In 14th is CARSON, who will be entering his 3rd season in trucks with Nice Motorsports. He showed a lot of promise in his rookie year, scoring 3 top 5s, including a runner-up at Charlotte, and earning a spot in the playoffs. Early on in 2022, it looked like he was going to have a major step forward with back-to-back runner-up finishes at Bristol, Dirt, and Darlington, but unfortunately for Carson, the win never came despite finishing the top 5 7 total times and leading 282 total laps. He also failed to perform in the playoffs whatsoever and ended up finishing 10th in points, the last of the playoff drivers, just like in 2021. In 2023, I expect to see Carson finally get that first career win and maybe 1 or 2 other wins throughout the season, as well as at least a round of 8 run in the playoffs. Really anything less than that, in my opinion, would really hurt his chances of moving up into a good Xfinity Series ride and would be fairly disappointing considering the potential he's shown so far. Next up is another Truck Series driver and currently the top female driver in the sport, Hailie Deegan. Similar to William Byron, Hailie has not had a lucky start to her 2023 season, getting crashed out in both of her races so far. For the record, I'm recording on Saturdays. The Truck and Xfinity races at Las Vegas have already concluded, but the Cup race is not until tomorrow. Anyway, neither of those incidents have been her fault whatsoever, and unless she is extraordinarily unlucky, I think she'll be due for a clean race at Atlanta. Either way, driving for ThorSport Racing this year, if Hailie had any type of excuse for missing the playoffs and failing to score a single top 5 in 2 seasons with David Gilliland Racing, she certainly has no excuse now. And this year, before getting involved in those incidents, Hailie's already shown a good deal of improvement, finishing 4th in the first stage at Daytona and qualifying 5th at Las Vegas. Right now, I get a 50-50 chance of her winning a race or making the playoffs this season, but if she wants to silence the doubters, she'll at least need to do one of those. Coming in the 12th spot is Kaulig Racing's rookie Xfinity Series driver Chandler Smith. Today at Las Vegas, one could definitely say he choked the win as he lost a pretty big lead over Austin Hill during the final green flag run and got passed by both Hill and Justin Allgaier on the final lap. But there have definitely been worse chokes in NASCAR history, and regarding today's events, it's pretty easy to overlook how good of a day Chandler really had. First of all, Kaulig Racing is really not known too well for their mile-and-a-half effort. Sure, they are a winning team every season now, but when you take a closer look, almost all of them have come at super speedways and road courses. Then on top of that, Smith outran his 4th place finishing teammate Kyle Busch nearly all race long. That's not even the first time he's done that, because he defeated Busch in a one-on-one battle last year in the Truck Series, also coincidentally at Las Vegas. That alone is enough to say that Smith has future Cup potential, and at this point in the season, I already can see him winning 2 or 3 races. But since last season he was already tearing it up in the Truck Series, he has relatively little room to improve compared to some other drivers on this list, so that's why he ranks all the way down in 12th. In the 11th spot is our next Cup Series driver, Bubba Wallace. I admit I was a bit skeptical of him after his winless Xfinity Series tenure and earlier on in his Cup career, but last season something clearly clicked in his second year with 2311 racing. After what some refer to as a fluke win at the rain-shortened Talladega race in 2021, in 2022, Bubba completely shut down the doubters with a textbook well-deserved win in the Fall Kansas race, where he led 58 of the 267 laps. He also went on to rack up 10 total top 10s, 7 more than in 2021, and he finished a solid 19th place in the points, ahead of both Eric Almirola and Chris Buescher. However, just like a few other drivers on this list, 2023 has not been kind to him so far, as he crashed out in the Daytona 500 and retired late in the going at Auto Club due to engine issues. Still, I think this year we'll see Bubba return to victory lane 1 or 2 times and qualify for the playoffs for the first time in his career. If he does make the playoffs, I would not expect him to make it past the round of 12, but regardless, I think he'll have a personal best season in 2023. Just cracking the top 10 is our 3rd Truck Series driver already, Jake Garcia. Just turning 18 years old this week, Jake technically qualified for this list because he made 6 truck attempts last year for McAnally Hilgeman Racing, in which he finished no better than 16th. Despite success in late models, I quite honestly would not have even considered him for this list until I watched him finish 10th in the Las Vegas race yesterday. McAnally Hilgeman Racing has put up decent results with Derek Kraus in years past, but has failed to ever win a race. So given that they're not a top team this series, to see a young rookie like Jake get a top 10 with him in his first race of the season is beyond impressive to me. Especially since Las Vegas is very similar to a lot of other tracks in the Truck Series schedule, I'd have to say this is a very good sign of things to come for Jake. With the all-time high strength of the series right now, in my opinion, I don't think he'll get a win or make the playoffs, but I do foresee him recording many more top 10s, and maybe even a couple top 5s, which of course would be a pretty significant improvement from his results last year. In the 9th spot is Ryan Preece, now driving the Stewart-Haas Racing number 41 machine in the Cup Series. After getting booted from his ride at JTG Doherty Racing following the 2021 season, Ryan had to scrape by with whatever he could get in 2022, but he made sure to make the most of every opportunity. In only 10 races for David Gilliland Racing the Truck Series, the same team that both Haley Diggin and Tanner Gray failed to qualify for the playoffs with, Ryan totaled 1 win, 7 top 5s, and 9 top 10s. Those are basically Kyle Busch numbers on a good year, which is absolutely insane for Ryan and well earned him his spot back in the Cup Series. Like last year, I expect everyone at Stewart-Haas except Kevin Harvick to struggle a bit, but I still think Ryan will do wonders compared to the 41 car's previous driver, Cole Custer. That would probably entail at least 10 top 10s and maybe even a win at some point in a long shot playoff bid if all goes his way. I'm also not sure how to really translate what an improvement would be in Cup terms from his part-time truck and Xfinity seasons last year, but I'd say he roughly fits around here on the list. Next, in 8th is finally another Xfinity Series driver, Sheldon Creed. Last year, both Creed and Austin Hill competed in their first full-time Xfinity seasons as teammates at Richard Childress Racing, and based on their Truck Series results, it was pretty wild to see Hill vastly outperform the 2020 Truck Champion. In fact, Sheldon was downright terrible overall, crashing out 6 times and ending up 14th in points, the worst of any big team drivers. That's not to say he never had any good races, though, as he's a runner-up in both the Fall Darlington and Martinsville races, and he began showing a good bit more consistency in the second half of the season. And again, he's a NASCAR champion, so clearly he has talent. I believe we'll see him pick up at least 1 win in this series this year and be a lot more consistent than last year, but so far in 2023, Creed has also not been too lucky, crashing out at Daytona and finishing back in 23rd at Auto Club after spinning early and being left with 1 less set of tires than the rest of the field. He was able to somewhat rebound today at Las Vegas with a P9, but he has definitely got a lot of work to do. Coming in the 7th spot is a driver who had similar but not quite as extreme of struggles than Xfinity last year, and that is Sam Mayer. Now entering his second full-time season in the series, again with Junior Motorsports, Mayer, who won the Bristol Truck Race in 2020 and back-to-back East Series championships in 2019 and 2020, is still yet to earn his first Xfinity Series win. While many have criticized him for that, I still firmly believe he has Cup Series potential. He's still only 19 years old, and last year he showed a lot of consistency, racking up 11 top 5 finishes, including a close runner-up in the Fall Talladega race. And already in 2023, he posted a runner-up finish at Auto Club to John Hunter Nemechek and backed up with a solid P7 in today's race at Las Vegas. That being said, it will not be shocked in the slightest if Mir goes on to get multiple wins this season and makes a deep run into the playoffs. Going back to the Truck Series for the 6th spot, we have Christian Eckes. From winning the 2019 ARCA Championship to coming up just short of a win on numerous occasions with KBM in his rookie truck season, to getting his first career truck win on a part-time schedule in 2021, Eckes has already been through quite a lot in his young career. After redeeming himself then in 2021, ThorSport Racing brought him on full-time for 2022, but rather disappointingly, he practically mirrored his rookie season, again going winless and finishing 8th in the points. While it was by no means a bad season with Haley Deegan signing on to the team for 2023, Eckes was the first on the chopping block. He would then sign on with McAnally Hilgeman Racing full-time, a team who, as I already mentioned earlier, has top 10 speed on a regular basis, but has yet to ever reach victory lane. Given that, I was not expecting a whole lot more out of Eckes as compared to last year, but after only the first 2 races of the season, I've already completely changed my mind. In the opener at Daytona, he won the first stage, tied for the most laps led, and came on P3 in the rain-shortened event. Then he went on to finish a solid P6 in yesterday's race at Las Vegas, good enough to keep him 3rd overall in points. I would have to say at this point that Eckes finally puts together a great season with at least 2 or 3 wins and a round of 8 playoff run, and puts his name back in the conversation of future Cup stars. Coming in 5th is a driver who doesn't necessarily have a whole lot more he can do to improve his career, but can definitely improve off of last season, and that's Kyle Busch. With his win at Auto Club last week, Busch has now won a race in the past 19 straight seasons, breaking Richard Petty's record of 18 seasons. But if not for being in the right place at the right time when the leaders wrecked at Bristol last year, he would have gotten winless in 2022. By Kyle Busch standards, his 13th place finish in the points was also quite underwhelming. That's not to say he wasn't performing well though, because he led 627 laps throughout the year, more than both his 2021 and 2020 seasons. But for one reason or another, luck would not be in his favor. Now in 2023, Kyle's already made the most of his fresh start with Richard Childress Racing, and as I've heard other people say, when Kyle Busch has something to prove, the rest of the field better watch out. Right now, I say Kyle at least gets one more win and gets the run of 12 in the playoffs, but if he keeps up his current trajectory, I could see him getting 5 or so wins this season and putting an RCR car in the championship for the first time since Ryan Newman in the inaugural playoffs. Next up in 4th is our final Truck Series driver of the video, well besides the honorable mentions, Chase Purdy. After his downright abysmal first full-time campaign in 2021 for GMS Racing, I would never have expected to see him drive for Kyle Busch Motorsports 2 years later, but here we are. That year, Purdy only scored 2 top 10s with the best finish of 6th at Gateway, and he finished 19th in points. For reference, his teammates Zane Smith and Sheldon Creed finished 2nd and 5th in points. After that, Chase hopped on with Hattori Racing for 2022, where he pretty much matched his results the year prior, but was much more consistent, improving his average finish from a 22.6 to a respectable 17.7. Still, with that average and arguably bad of a driving record, many fans were reasonably upset when it was announced that Chase would be racing full-time with KBM for 2023. I, for one, expected him to get around 5 to 7 top 10s and maybe a long-shot playoff bid purely because of how fast the KBM trucks are, but I've been pleasantly surprised from what I've seen out of him so far this season. At Daytona, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time when rain ended the race prematurely, but he was running up front a lot and even finished 2nd place in the 2nd stage. Then yesterday at Las Vegas, the first standard mile-and-a-half race, Chase got more stage points, finishing 4th in the 2nd stage, and this time was able to finish right around where he was running with a P8. While I don't think he has any potential in the Cup Series, I do think if Chase keeps up his current performance, he will most definitely make the playoffs and might even get his first career win or 2. Either way, a huge improvement from his 2022 season. Coming in 3rd is a driver who arguably took the biggest step back in 2022, Brad Keselowski. It was pretty obvious when Brad announced his ownership stake and driver role at RFK Racing that he would be unable to back up his one win, 6th place points finish from 2021 with Penske, but I also don't think anyone would have expected him to finish 24th overall, his lowest points finish since his first full-time season in 2010. Some blame can lie on his 100-point penalty that followed a part modification violation in his Daytona duel race, but still, even without that, he would not have ranked a whole lot higher. Towards the end of 2022, though, Brad was making noticeable improvement with his lone top 5 and 3 of his 6 total top 10s, all coming in the final 10 races. So far this year, he already has another top 10, a P7 in last week's race at Auto Club, and I think if he keeps up his current momentum, there's a good chance he can point his way into the playoffs. And of course, with the speed we saw out of both RFK cars at Daytona, I would say Brad could very well win either both of the Atlanta races, Talladega, or the summer Daytona race to lock himself in. In the second position on this list is yesterday's Xfinity Series winner from Las Vegas via a last lap pass, Austin Hill. As I already talked about a bit during Sheldon Creed's segment, I was pretty pleasantly surprised with how well Austin did in his rookie Xfinity season last year. In the Truck Series, he's always pretty consistent in his 3 seasons with Tory Racing, picking up 8 total wins, but he was also always just short of a real championship threat. So given that, I expected him to have a slow start in the Xfinity Series. He was actually able to win both the season opener at Daytona and the summer Atlanta race, and put together a great run in the playoffs to finish 6th overall. It seemed like he was running in the top 10 almost every race, and if not for Ty Gibbs and Noah Gragson, he almost certainly would have been able to break through on some mile and a halves, and maybe even a road course. Now with both of them gone, I think 2023 will be Austin Hill's breakout year. And he started off about as strong as possible, defending his Daytona win, finishing 6th at Auto Club, and then of course winning again in today's race after closing a sizable gap on Chandler Smith over the final green flag run. At this point, I'd be surprised if Hill doesn't make the championship four, along with probably Justin Allgaier, John Hunter Nemechek, and Cole Custer. Now for the honorable mentions, I've picked one for each series, starting with Matt DiBenedetto for the Truck Series. Matt has suffered probably one of the biggest downfalls in the sport's recent history, going from a playoff-caliber Cup driver in 2020 to a struggling Truck Series driver 2 years later. To be fair, Rackley War is not a top team whatsoever in the Truck Series, but then again, for a driver who finished a runner-up in 3 Cup races within the past 4 years, to not even be competitive in the Truck Series against a bunch of teenagers is pretty unfortunate. Yes, he did win at Talladega last year, but that was also his only top 5 finish, and he didn't have a single other top 10 finish in the second half of the season. For 2023, I'm basing it off nothing, but I feel like Matt will at least be able to point his way into the playoffs and get a win or two along the way. If not, man, that'll be pretty disappointing. For the Xfinity Series, we have the 2021 and 2022 ARCA East champion, Sammy Smith. Sammy made select starts in Xfinity last year for Joe Gibbs Racing before going full-time with him this year, and he performed just about as expected for a complete newcomer, only scoring 1 top 5 and 3 top 10s in his 9 starts. He's still only 18 years old, so I definitely don't expect him to be a championship threat until at least next year, but still, this year I can see him getting a win or two and making it to the round of 8 in the playoffs, given how dominant he was in ARCA. For the Cup Series is one that probably a lot of you guys wouldn't expect, and that's Corey LaJoie. Yeah, even last year with the Next Gen or Gen 7 cars supposedly evening the playing field a bit for small teams like Spire Motorsports, we saw basically nothing notable out of LaJoie other than him leading late in the summer Atlanta race, well before he wrecked himself out in the final lap. But so far in 2023, he has finished top 20 in both races, including a very impressive P14 at Auto Club last week. And that was no fluke. LaJoie was running the top 20 nearly all race long, and straight up beat guys like Ty Gibbs, Eric Jones, and Chase Briscoe at the finish. That wasn't the best run Corey's ever had in a non-super speedway track, as he finished P12 in the 2019 Coke 600 with Go Fast Racing, and last year the Charlotte Roval, but I would have to say that was the most consistently good I've ever seen Corey run throughout a full race. If that wasn't a one-off good race for the number 7 team, I can definitely see them going on to get 5 or so top 10s this year, and quite possibly even Corey getting his first career win at one of the super speedways. But now, for what you've all been waiting for, the number 1 driver who's most likely to improve in 2023, Brett Moffitt. Moffitt has to be the most overlooked driver of this year, and it's not even a contest. He's a past NASCAR champion, as he won the truck title all the way back in 2018 now. He's shown a lot of promise in the Xfinity Series, driving the underfunded Hour Motorsports cars, and now he's back full-time with the new AM Racing team. According to what I saw over the offseason, and from what I've seen on track so far this year, it looks like the AM Racing Xfinity team has significant technical support from Stewart-Haas Racing, and with Moffitt behind the wheel, that's a winning combination. Considering how many top 10s he racked up in the 0-2 car in the past few years, I would strongly disagree with anyone who thinks he's washed up, and I would not be surprised at all to see him win at one of those super speedways, or even at some random mile and a half. Following the 3rd race of this season, he only has 1 top 10, a P9 at Auto Club, but still, I'm holding strong on this prediction, and despite there being over 12 full-time drivers racing for big teams this season, I think he's got a good shot at pointing his way into the playoffs and taking a spot away from someone like Daniel Hemrick or Brandon Jones. As far as his improvement from 2022, last year he was originally scheduled to run his 3rd near full-time Xfinity season for Hour Motorsports, but a little over halfway through the season, he ran out of funding and pretty much just scraped together whatever rides he could get from then on out. He picked up 5 top 10s, 4 of which were for Hour Motorsports, and the other was actually in a one-off for SS Greenlight Racing at Kansas. So strictly speaking about how much improvement any drivers will make from last season, Moffitt easily takes the cake. But that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos just like these. Right now I'm planning on doing another episode of the Were They That Bad series. I've already picked out a driver for that one. But please comment down any other drivers you'd want to see in that series in the future. I'm also considering doing a new series where I basically go over on the Racing Reference website and hit the randomize button and just make a whole mini documentary video on whatever it gives me. So let me know your thoughts on that as well. But yeah, that's all I've got to say for today. So until next time, peace out.